what is the meaning of life gets asked a lot. I asked it to myself a lot when I was younger. And what I realized that this is a vehicle. And so just like if you were in a vehicle and you said, what is the meaning of me being in this? I thought this was a snake right here. What is the meaning of being in the vehicle? Way to answer that would be to know which direction we're traveling. Like, what is the destination, right? So the way that I answer the meaning of life is to know the destination. And what I perceive currently now, my comprehension of this is our destination is to ascend the self from this physical vessel that is experiencing physical reality that I can move through in a linear timeline that is progressing in a forward fashion, going from that to essentially everything, right? Going from an individual self to being able to perceive everything. And so I'm in this vehicle going in that direction. And the way that I do that, I'll get to that in a second. The reason for that is so that the everything gets to know itself through myself as an individual experiencing this physical reality. And the all is doing that infinitely. It's doing that with the rocks, right? It's knowing itself as a rock right now, right there. It's knowing itself as a different person who's living a life in these houses. It's knowing itself as the tree right there and the ocean. Beyond that, it's knowing itself right now as a chainsaw, the minerals within the chainsaw that is cutting down that tree over there. We just don't have perception of that currently in our physical bodies. However, the connection is there because we are all made up of the same energy that's flowing through all of us, right? I'm also breathing the air that was just exhaled from the plants, right? The plants are taking the CO2 out of the air, taking the H2O out of the ground that I might have just urinated, and it's making itself. And when it does that, the CO2 out of the air, it breaks it, takes the carbon, it releases the oxygen, which then I inhale, and then I exhale CO2. So we're cycling the same units of energy through each other. It's just our thinking capacity. Like, let's call ourselves a radio, and there's a signal that's being transmitted into us as antennas, but our radio only has a capacity to sense a part of that signal. Okay, there's a signal, but we're on a certain channel, and we only get a sliver of the whole signal. Just like, Sully, what are you eating? What is that? No. Somebody left some sliced turkey, it looks, for Solar to just chomp on. Did I make myself clear on that signal thing? Yeah, so an example of that would be like the physical light spectrum. Our eyes only have an ability to perceive less than 1% of the physical light spectrum. So yes, we're feeling and we're using all 100% of the light spectrum. I said 1% of the visible light spectrum. What I meant to say is 1% of the light spectrum is visible to us. So we are perceiving, we are consciously aware of less than 1% of the light spectrum, even though we're connected to a full 100%. So it's the same thing with consciousness. We are perceiving our unique individual consciousness, even though we are connected with much more than that. So how do we go from where we are now into the perception of everything? We start with I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version because it's starting to rain here. We start with ourself because that's what we are aware of. And we are here to align the self. And as we align the self, then we get more powerful. We get more perceptual abilities. So if our head brain, our heart brain, and our gut brain are out of alignment, so for instance, easiest way to grasp being out of alignment is going to a job that you hate, right? Your heart is telling you to not go, and your brain justifies the reason to go, and you get up, and the gut propels, right? The solar plexus is what puts you into action. You force the gut to get out of bed, to take a shower, to drink coffee, and go produce action, to work. And you're out of alignment. You're fighting with yourself. And there's just this focus, this need for motivation and grasping to overcome the struggle that is really just you fighting with yourself. It's not you fighting with hating the job. It's you not being in alignment with it. And you can either get another job, or you can either tell yourself a different story about why you're there and how it is in alignment for your greatest good, your greatest expression of self. So once we have learned to be in alignment with our head brain, gut brain, heart brain, and actions that we're in alignment, now we have awareness of all the capacities of our self. We start to sense our thoughts. We start to sense our feelings as more than just a thought, but we start to sense it as an energy. And we start to feel that energy moving through our body, and we can feel it interact with the different parts of ourself. Our root, we can feel it, our sexual energy, we can feel our solar plexus, our heart. We can feel energies move and be expressed through our throat and given meaning through our higher centers, and then cycle around, and we can start to feel that. Once we can feel that within ourselves, we can start to feel those energies within others. And it's not like it normally is, right? Where you just know somebody else is angry because you can through pattern recognition recognize the signs of anger. But you actually, as their anger interacts with your heart field, and you can actually feel that transmission. So you can start feeling others' feelings as your own. And a lot of us are already there, right? We are empathic. We can start feeling other people's feelings when they're close to us. Imagine being able to feel everybody in your neighborhood's feelings. This is, remember I said we're in a vehicle driving somewhere. This is the direction we are going, to be able to sense feelings in others. And technology is doing this artificially, right? That's what Instagram is. We can perceive others and how they feel. Once we get these devices that are tracking our heartbeats and our emotions, that's another way that we're going to be able to artificially, which nothing's really artificial, right? Like a spider makes a web. Does that make the web artificial? Ants use, I shouldn't say ants, but apes, for instance, use tools to get things done. Does that make those tools artificial? So anything that we develop is still nature, even if we use technology to do so. So as we start to feel each other, then that gives us access to know what another knows. And also social media, it's YouTube is doing that artificially, in quotes, because somebody could be discovering something on the other side of the world, knowing it, and I get to know it if I'm watching it live on YouTube. And so once we feel what others are feeling, we want to act in alignment, right? Because if we're hurting another person, we don't want them. I'm going backwards. Once we start feeling what other people feel, we begin to change our actions to be in alignment with others, and that will instantaneously change the world. Once everybody's acting in collaboration to make everybody feel the best as possible, because their feelings are our feelings, then that grants us access to know what they know. And as we get to sense everybody's individual perceptions on this planet, we begin to operate as a very integrated collective. And through that process, we will ascend as a collective species far more than we are right now, acting as individuals and in competition. Collaboration is going to propel our species to places that we can't even imagine right now. And eventually, because we're operating within such union, our brainwave frequencies, our hearts, our actions are going to be in such alignment that there's going to be no need for the individual experience. And we will begin to disembody and become a collective consciousness that is made up of all the individual entities that we call us. And as we disembody and become enlightened, become a unified consciousness, we will then get access to what? That grants us access to maneuver through time. Because linear time is an illusion. We don't currently have access to the past. Many of us do. We are able to transcend the linear time veil. But as we disembody, just like I'm traveling through physical space right now, we will be able to remember, to become one with another timeline, another memory, because we are one with all selves, not just currently, but that has ever existed. And by all selves, I don't just mean humans. I mean anything that has ever existed, because minerals make us up. And we are not currently aware of the minerals, but the minerals are conscious just like we are. They're just at a different level. So just as we are made up of a bunch of different entities that all collaborate together into a grand unified self that I call myself, right? I call me. We are a self of a grand unified entity that we will eventually get access to. Let's go back this way. So through this process, we become aware of our grander entity and the entities that make us up. And that essentially is everything. It's everything that makes us up, which is everything that is here and now, and it is everything that is everywhere and anytime. And for me, that's my comprehension of what the meaning of life is. And when you actually say, like, yeah, but what's usable out of that? For me, what's usable is that at this stage, I'm an individual that is within the paradigm of traveling through linear time and being within this physical reality. My role here is to know thyself, to be in alignment with thyself as basically best as possible, to express my greatest version of self, and also going towards sensing and knowing others, right? Being able to perceive as another, not just perceive as self, because perceiving as self is like perceiving all the different aspects of myself, and then being able to also, the ascended version of that is to perceive as others, to feel as others. And that's my current comprehension of why we're here and what I do on a day-to-day basis. That's why I am consumed with knowing thyself. That's why when somebody brings a situation to me, I always view it from the perspective of, what does this mean for me, right? So if you get fired from a job, it's like, what does this mean for me? How am I responsible for this? What responsible, right? Ability to respond. Responsibility. So how do I respond to this? How is this for me? And once we can understand how we are interacting with reality in union, right? It's not just you're getting fired from a job, it's happening to you. It's happening with you. It's happening as you. So every situation in my life is about connection, being connected with the experience. And if I'm giving consultation, if I'm giving advice, if I'm answering a question, it's always, for me, most of the time, my favorite angle to address it is union. Can you be connected to the experience? How is this you? And what does that mean? How does that make you feel? What is the action that is evoked when you look at all of the experiences in your life, moment to moment, as you, right? We go from this is happening to me, to this is happening for me, to this is happening as me. Like, you are it. And when you are in alignment with that, it really gives you start to grasp on to a different perception, a different, it's like a different sensation. It's like being able to see color, or it's like being able to see into reality itself, which the end of the game, that's what we are, right? The universe is experiencing itself through us. This gives us an ability to tap into that experience, that sensation that the universe or God is having through us. We start to connect the other way and gain sensation of everything. We tap into the rest of that frequency that is normally veiled off from us. And for me, that's how I answer, that's how I comprehend the meaning of this life. And yes, I am a progression and that will evolve. But for me, that's how I'm letting it vibrate through me right now.